So we know what a character is, and we know that a string is a list or group of characters. Great. We also know how to copy strings. In this video, in the next section of your OneNote tasks, you're going to be looking at how you can join strings together, join them together. And that's a really, really powerful tool, especially when it comes to output values and variables later on in your code. Now, I always try to come up with some analogy, something that you can think about in order to get a word to stick, because a word that you need to remember, the word for joining strings together is a word called concatenation, or concatenating, or to concatenate. Okay, so it's not the easiest of words to remember, especially when you're put under pressure in the GCSEs. So as always, I try to invent little analogies to help you remember. So let me tell you a little story about three little friends. And these friends are all strings. So we have string, and this string is called Connor, or Con for short. So all his mates call him Con. And we've got a girl string. And she's a lovely string. Here she goes. Look at that. Beautiful. And her name is Cat. So EastEnders fans know the name Cat. There she is. Oh, lovely little cat. And the last of the trio of string friends is Nate. Nate's green. There he is. Now, once upon a time in Stringland, these three string friends, were never seen without one another. They were so close. It was almost as if they were joined together. Some would say they were joined at the hip. And they became so close that they... Oh, no, I don't know why Nate would be doing that. I'm going to make a different colour. What colour should I use? Orange. They joined up. And Con and Cat and Nate became known as Con, Cat and Nate. And forever they were known as one string. It's a beautiful little story. There you go. You can tell your future children this story of three little string friends. But the important thing to remember is the word is concatenate. Concatenate means to join two, actually, she can't join one, two or more strings together to form one string. Let's take a look at what that looks like in code. Python, new file. I've already named it concatenate because I did this video earlier and mucked it up, so now I'm having to do it again. Let's have a string. First string, I'm going to call it, no, I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to call it first name. I'm going to assign it with not my name. I'm getting bored with my name, so I'm going to call it Joe. And the surname is going to be called Blogs. There you go, Joe Blogs. Oh, look, I've spelt surname wrong. Have I spelt surname? Yes, I have. Don't know, I've got a capital in there. Boom. Surname. So, full name would be first name and surname put together. Now, I could print... Let me just bring that down here. I could print first name like this, first name, and then I could print surname. Let me just hash out full name for a second. No, I won't, because I haven't taught you that yet, so let's just go with what we know. I'm going to run this. Didn't need to save it, I'd already saved it. Look, Joe Blogs gets printed as we would expect it to, because we are now experts at this printing malarkey. Joe Blogs on two separate lines. But what if we wanted to say Joe Blogs all in one line? What we could do is we concatenate it. See, using that word, concatenate, join those two strings together. So I'm going to create another variable, and I'm going to call that full name. And I'm going to assign that using the assignment operator, the equals. Full name is going to equal, it will contain first name plus surname. So this plus here, this addition operator, this plus operator, when used with strings, joins these two strings together. First name gets stuck like glue to surname. So look what happens when I print surname. No, full name. Joe Blogs. Joe Blogs. Not quite happy with that though. Can you see? Joe and Blogs are so close. They are actually stuck together. There is no gap between them. And this is one of the little problems we've got with using concatenation strings, is it does stick them together without any white space. In order to solve that, you would need to add a trailing white space character to the end of Joe or at the start of Blogs. Okay, and then when I run this, I'll show you. It will then put a space in there. See, Joe Blogs, and Blogs has got one at the end, at the beginning. And that would solve that issue. So concatenation means to join two strings together, and it will join it without a space. Now we can do it this way by creating two variables, each assigned a string, and then joining those two together. But we could also do that by, when we print a message, having part of a message and then join up the value that's stored in a variable. Let me show you by examples. So I'm going to ask the user their name and store this in a variable called name. So name equals input, and then I'm going to say to the user, enter your name. Like this. Close the bracket. And then I'm going to print a message to the user, and I'm going to say, hello. And then your name. Well, not your name, but their name. Hello, whoever you are. So if they put in Katie, for example, it's going to say, hello, Katie. And if they put in Jeff, it's going to say, hello, Jeff. So let's do that. So what I've done here is I've got the print statement. I've got a string, a message. That could say whatever I like it to say. In this instance, it says hello. I've left that trailing white space, remember, because we had that problem before, and I don't want it being stuck completely together. And then I've used the plus operator to join this string, the one that I've just typed out, with the string that is being stored in the variable name. Let's take a look at that and see what happens when we run it. It's going to ask me to enter a name, and now I'm going to be Harry. Hello, Harry. Okay, I'm going to run it again. And this time, I think I'm going to be Kerry. Hello, Kerry. It will say hello to whoever enters it in, because I've joined that string with the name. There is one thing to remember with joining strings, though. I can join as many as I like. So let's do another one. So hello. I'm going to add another thing on the end of this. So hello, name. How are you? I'm going to say. A little question mark. Don't forget, I need that space here, otherwise it's going a little bit messy. And you can see this part of the string, this string, has been added to whatever's stored inside this variable, which is a string, and then that has been added to this. So I've got 1, 2, 3 strings here, all being joined together. It's like concatenate, isn't it? I think I'm so funny. Okay, so enter my name. Who shall I be now? I'm going to be Toby. Hello, Toby. How are you? Isn't it such a pleasant program that I'm written? So caring and kind. I'm good, thank you. How are you? It's not responding. Okay. One little problem I just said a second ago. We can join strings in this way. It doesn't like it when we start using numbers. Watch this. So if I just put year, and I put in there 2019 because it is the current year, unless of course you're watching this in future years and then it's not. So the year is 2019 at this moment in time, and if I wanted to say hello name, the current year is, and then I'm going to join year on the end. Just watch this. It doesn't like it. Ends much good, so good so far. Who should I be now? Sally. Uh-oh. Big red errors. I'll tell you the reason why. This here, we haven't looked at data types yet. We are going to look at data types. We'll go into that more depth later. But it doesn't like this. It thinks remember, concatenate. They're all strings. They all have to be strings. They don't, in their friendship group, they don't like numbers. Okay, unfortunately, they don't join with numbers. They only join with strings. It's very easy to tie knots in strings and join them all together. You try and like tie a knot in a number. It doesn't really work. And it doesn't work in Python either. Okay, if I'm going to use concatenation using a plus symbol, they all have to be of type string. Otherwise, Python throws a hissy fit and says, computer says no. So it doesn't like this. Now there is a way to get around that, but that is for another lesson. We just know for now that when we're using concatenation, we can use a plus symbol for strings only. So only strings can be in this friendship group, and they can only be together if they were all the same type. It's a little bit wrong. Okay, so one last thing I want to show you, and I know this is a really, really long video and you can be pausing it and having to try out a few things first. You can pause this now and come back when you get to this bit. To get around this, Python does allow you to print several things in a line. So instead of actually concatenating these strings, we can just send print this string, this variable, this string, and this variable by using the commas. And actually, by doing that, we don't actually even need these spaces in there because it will automatically put space in. It's just a feature of Python that later in your program you will find helpful. So I'm showing you in this instance. I'll show you how we can kind of cheat and get around that. So poor Sally didn't really have a turn, so I'm going to do her again. See, look, now it's very nice to Sally. It's saying, hello, Sally, the current year is 2019. This, however, isn't true concatenation. This is using a feature of the print statement that allows us to separate items that we want to print using commas. You will use that, but that's not true concatenation. In the exam, and when you're asked about concatenation, it's using the plus, and you can only concatenate strings together. You can only join strings. Imagine 3 pieces of string. You can tie each at each end. It becomes one piece of string. If you try to take a number and tie it into a string, it's not gonna have it. Okay, so concatenation is between strings, but Python does allow you to kind of cheat and use commas instead. Okay. Stop this video. It's a really, really long one. My apologies. Do the task on concatenations, and then you can move on to white space characters.